Howdy everybody, it's Friday. No idea what date it is, but it's finally sunny in Ontario, and the snow we have is very old and it's melting. And today we're talking about my Mack truck. I'm not trucking today. It's slow again, and I keep getting emails where people ask me why did I choose the Mack, and why I decided to go with a small sleeper and a flat roof sleeper. And I answered them in bits and pieces all over the place because I had this truck since the fall of 2014, but it was purchased in the summer of 2014, right? So I was going through all this research. But I just wanted to give you, let's say, briefly, I made a list here, 10 reasons that made me choose a Mack truck. Reason number one, I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, I had a love for this money, especially cash rebates. I love free money, so why not? I worked at Landstar at the time, and Landstar, they have a program, where you get tires and parts, and also you can buy new trucks and new trailers. And depending on the make and model and which country you're located in, US or Canada, you get less or more. It was somewhere around, like, the best ones were $2,000, I remember, $2,500, $1,500, $1,000. So anywhere between $1,000 and $2,500 cash. And some manufacturers restrict you how you can use this money, but others, specifically, let's say cash, they'll give you a check. And that's how I started paying attention to Mack trucks, because at the time, I don't know now, I'm no longer with Landstar, but their program was one of the best. And so that was my starting point, so to say, because you cannot look, it's like stocks, right? You cannot look at million stocks. You need some base where to start from. And so for me, it was these rebates. And so I was looking, I don't like Peterbilts, I don't like, everybody has a Freightliner. Kenworth, I don't like, they brag too much, the best truck in the world. But also, I started looking at these. Mostly I was looking at the Mack and Western Star. Western Star looks cool. And I started, of course, what helped is that I was buying a truck for my 55-ton lowboy trailer. And it's very helpful when you know specifically what you're going to use the truck for. So in my case, I knew what I wanted. I wanted heavy axles. I wanted a durable frame. I wanted 18-speed transmission. I wanted to have a lift axle on the truck, 20,000 pounds, and I wanted to have a big engine. And some of the trucks I liked, like, let's say, like there was others I was also looking at, like International, for example, that aerodynamic one, before they fell out of grace with buying public because of their old emission system, like back at that time, right? So now they're back on the wagon with everybody else, but back then they tried to be different, and turns out it was not as good as I thought it was. But other than that, I was ready to go with the International because I already had the International truck, right? Except that their parts were always scarce, and it's hard to find a dealer, and the pricing was expensive, so that I did not like. So anyway, and I started looking at these few specific models that were available with like heavy steer axles. Believe it or not all truck makers will give you, let's say, more than 13,600 pounds on the steer axle. They all use the same, like Hendrickson or whatever, but some makes, it's already in their spec sheet. Yeah, we can give you, like you always ask them, what's the maximum I can get? And I didn't want to get 16,000, Actually, at first I was not sure. Some people say, oh, get a 20,000, 28,000. And then I figured out, because mine is a highway truck. I don't, move stuff locally. I need good fuel mileage, so I need highway tire, but still highway tires and highway axle. and so I stopped at the 14,600, and then the tires were matched to the axle, right? But not all truck makes you can get with this configuration, right? And so number one was Landstar rebate. That's reason number one. Reason number two was my desire, eternal struggle to be different. That's why I don't like Peterbilts, you know, oh, it's a classic truck, you know, stuck in 60s before the First World War. And like I said, Freightliner, everybody has them. So the only two trucks that kind of like captured my imagination as far as be different part was Western Star and Mack. And then Western Star, and I did a bunch of quotes from different dealers actually. Like I tried it, I didn't do it all at once. Like a couple of years in a row I was going to all, you know, dealers. There's a bunch of them in my area here in Cambridge, Kitchener, Ontario, and I was getting quotes, right? I was getting quotes. I went through all this specking. By the time I bought a Mack, I had lots of experience with specking, you know, and that's very helpful. All you do is just go to a salesman and just try to spec a truck, and it takes a long time, and then you'll see and you can compare them, and that's what I did. I was comparing, and the difference between, let's say, Western Star and Freightliner was huge. So even though I told the guy that I needed just a work truck, you know, I don't want chrome stuff everywhere, but his quote, I still remember, this was like probably 2 years before I bought the Mack. The Western Star quote was like $20,000 more than the Freightliner quote, with the same engine, same axle, same transmission, right? So everything else was all this, you know, puffing. It was all the extra stuff because, of course, they make commissions depending on the price of the truck. And the guy emailed me, you know, after he didn't hear from me, and he says, "So what's going on?" Well, I said I was interested in your truck, but your price is like, you know, so much more, so much higher than the Freightliner, for example. And he says, "Well, send me the Freightliner quote." So I sent him the quote, and he replaced as many parts as possible with Freightliner parts, which to me makes perfect sense. I don't know why he had to go with. Anyway, so the price, he matched the price with the Freightliner. So it's like $20,000, you know, like in 10 minutes. So you really need to know your stuff, you know. You can save a lot of money when you know specking. So I strongly recommend everybody just to do a few specs. Don't just go to one dealer, you know, do a spec. Just try to do it. I was doing this even when I had no money. I mean, I had no financing. I didn't have any source that I could go to for money. I was hoping. So I was just going, not for hobby, but, you know, I really needed a truck for my heavy trailer. But it was a very good exercise. And so I wanted to stand out. And Mack, to me, was a perfect truck because eventually these were two brands that I was considering. It was Western Star and Mack. Sorry, it seems pretty precariously here on the side of my door on a little tripod. So I'm recording with my LG G4. And so yeah, the quote of the Western Star was again much higher. This was a different salesman, and the guy, like, they never listen, right? I said, I need a working truck, you know, I don't need anything fancy. I just want the truck to be able to pull. I want the truck to be comfortable, of course, you know, for the driver. It's just a matter of ergonomics, you know, you spend so much time behind the wheel, but I don't need all this BS, you know, like chrome tips on antennas or stuff like that, you know. And this guy says, he listens to me, like some young salesman here from Western Star, and he says, "I'll make you a truck that will last you 20 years. And I'm like, okay, you know, that's not what I wanted. So of course the guy specs me the truck that's going to last me 20 years, which I totally had no interest in. And it's like, again, 15-20 grand more than everybody else, you know. When I complained about this, and first of all, it took him like 2 months to come up with a quote. You know, some of these dealers, that's another thing you learn. They're very quick, you know, you give them all your requirements, the more the better, because then it's easier when you know exactly what you want. You can even do it by email, you know, just tell them, hey, I want this, 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 and then the guy sends you the quote, and of course you start checking, and half of it is not in there what you ask for, and that's because, you know, they're very busy, right? They always, and why they're busy? Because they're always making wrong quotes, right? So they spell, oh, I'm busy, I'm sorry, I cannot talk to you right now. Yeah, because, you know, you screw up each time. I ask you to do this, you do this. So they put wrong numbers, or he gives you, I ask for a specific axle rating, right? Because I know what the fuck I want, right? The guy puts 11 R22.5 tires on. And so you have to call him or email him, and, you know, like the tires have to match the rating of the axle, otherwise it's a useless expenditure of your, you know, because nobody's gonna give you the rating if your tires are that. And actually, DOT and MTO here in Ontario, Canada, they pay more attention to tires, specifically tire width. They don't care about your axles. Nobody looks at your sticker on the side door, you know. And that's why I know a lot of guys, when they change something on the truck, let's say they add an axle, they don't even bother with getting that sticker, you know, the updating your VIN number, you know, because everybody, they don't have time for that, you know. They don't have time to check all your documents. They just look at your tire. They look at the size of your tire, and, you know, that's your inches, right? Or in Canada, millimeters, like a metric system, like 295, you know, something. And they multiply by the amount they allow to give you in this particular jurisdiction. And that's the easiest way for them to check if you're compliant. And so tires are very important, right? But I mean, so, Jesus, it takes me a long time. I only covered 2, so Landstar rebate and desire to be different. Number 3 was, originally I wanted a 15-liter engine, of course, because I come from a Cat, which was totally beefed up, you know. I spent so much money on that on that engine. From 435 horsepower, 1650 torque, I took it to 550 horsepower, 2050 torque, believe it or not, because I had to change like clutch and transmission, and no, not transmission. Yeah, I had to update the transmission so it could take the torque, and then I took it to Cat, and they, you know, did their magic with the tuning, and the guy showed me a printout. He says, yeah, you have 2,050 pounds of torque. And I went through all these axle ratios, but that's a different story. But basically, what changed my mind about 15-liter engines is that, you know, whenever I go to Western Canada, I see these Mack trucks exactly the same as what I bought now, CXU 613 Pinnacle. And at that time, actually, the highest torque you can get in them was 1760, right? Mine was the first truck, like it was the first model year in 2015. Even I got it 2014, but it was 2015 truck. You can get this 1860 torque, you know. They tuned up at the factory, the same 13-liter engine. So basically, I go to Western Canada, and I see this trucks with engine much weaker than my Cat at the time in the International, and they pull this humongous, I don't know, 10 axle, you know, like 3 axles on the truck and, you know, 7 axles on the trailers. They specifically B trains and tankers. That's what persuaded me. And then reason number 4 was also talking to the salesman. I met the guy. I went to this truck show in Toronto. I think it was it was the spring of 2014. Like each spring, I think now in April they're going to be a truck show, right? And I was drawn to this Mack, you know, booth exhibition. And I talked to a very pleasant guy, like a young guy, and we started chatting. And he says, "Hey, I'm a salesman at the Cambridge branch." Okay, so I live in Cambridge. So we started talking, and I asked him about big engine versus small engine, and he said that he was selling a lot of smaller engines to companies that were pulling very heavy weights, like tankers and B trains and stuff like that. And he says you don't need 15-liter engine because you can get pretty high torque. And he was telling me about this particular engine model where you get 1860 torque. So now, after what I know now, I'd probably still go with a 15 liter, but now, but after I changed the axle ratio to 410, I don't know, it's pretty right up there with the 15 liter engine, you know. I would say more depends on the axle ratio than on the engine. As long as you have a high torque engine, even a 13 liter engine will do the job, you know, because you're gonna be slow no matter what, even with the 15 liter engine climbing that hill somewhere in US 15 in Pennsylvania, or I-99 as it's called in New York, you know. So I'm okay with the engine. I had lots of negative thoughts about it during the first year, but once I changed the axle ratio, it was great. So reason number 4 about buying a Mack was the salesman input, even though you never can trust them, but you know, this guy, you know, seemed to know what he was talking about. And number 5 was, I think it's important to find a shop that you're comfortable working with, because you know, sooner or later your truck is going to break down. So, and this Mack dealer where I ended up buying this truck, they were excellent guys, you know. Like, I developed a good relationship with them. They were very honest, never overcharged me, you know, and they knew what they were doing. Even with my international, I went there. That's how I learned, you know, to trust them, because I took my international with them, you know, because they're right here in town, and I don't want to drive to like Western Styles, like 15 minutes away, you know, Freightliner and Kenworth or in Kitchener. So this was pretty much the only dealer. There's another one, International, Alt Trucks, but whenever I would go there with my old yellow truck, they were always busy. Oh, we have to, you know, we have to put you on the list, you know. I don't know. These guys were faster, so I developed a relationship with this shop, and it was a Mack shop, and that's another reason why I bought a Mack truck, because this is the truck they know. And as I mentioned before, just now, that this was pretty much the only truck dealer right where I, you know, park my stuff, you know, so to speak. So the location was important. So basically, they're like 5 minutes away from my parking area. Oh, and also number 7 was I compared the shop rates, like labor rates between Western Star and Mack. I even specifically drove to the Western Star over there, out of town, on 401 West. It's a town called Ayr, A-Y-R, Ayr, Ontario. That's where they have now this new Flying J. I used to park my truck over there, and then they also changed to Flying J, and they kicked me out. Wouldn't even take money. Like when it was Esso, I was parking my, you know, pickup truck there when I'm going on the road, and then I would come home. I park my big truck, take my pickup truck, and go. I offered them money. They said, "Oh, it's okay." So, and there's always people there, you know. So I was just leaving my vehicles there. But once Flying J took over, they said, "No, we don't have enough parking here. This parking where you park, it's for the restaurant. That's a different establishment." So they kicked me out. Wouldn't even take any money. And so yeah, Western Star, the rates was, I think, pretty much the same, except that yeah, Western Star was further down, but the price of the truck itself was, as I mentioned, was much higher. Also, about this time, you know, I came to like, you know, this young actress, Hollywood actress called Amanda Seyfried. She's an amazing performer. She's not only an actor, she can sing, she can dance, you know. Like if you've seen Mamma Mia or like a bunch of her movies, you know. I loved watching her. And then for some reason I went to Wikipedia, you know. I usually like to check on, you know, if I like an actor or actress, I just, you know, you want to know who they are from, you know. And I go to the Wikipedia to check out this Amanda Seyfried, and it says she was born and spent her childhood in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And that was like a sign, you know. My favorite actress at that time that I really enjoyed watching on screen, and she's from Allentown, Pennsylvania, the headquarters of Mack Trucks. So partially that was the reason number 8. I thought, Jesus, this is a sign, you know. Okay, number 9. This is more about the design of the sleeper. Some guys are still, you know, rubbing their heads like, why did I buy flat roof? First of all, I always like how trucks with flat roofs look, you know. You don't see many of them. It's to add to my point number 2, desire to be different. But first of all, even for myself, you know, I look at it, they look great. Like if you ever happen to see, let's say, a Western Star, I once saw a very cool, you know, classic Western Star 4900 with a flat roof and small sleeper. And I remember walking circles and I thought, this is the setup I want, you know. And well, first of all, flat sleeper, yeah, I used to, you know, bump my head a couple of times, like not a couple of times, but a lot of times during the first 3 months until I learned to bow my head. But I'm in Canada. It gets very cold in Canada, and it's a scientific fact that small sleepers and of course low sleepers, they tend to stand warmer in winter. They're much easier to heat with this Webasto heater. You know, the Webasto heater, even on their website, they have a table showing you what's the maximum temperature you will have with the Webasto working. Let's say when it's minus 20 Celsius outside, very cold in Fahrenheit. And depending on the height of the sleeper, your temperature inside will be higher. Like, I'm not lying. So it's a proven fact that smaller sleepers are easier to heat in winter. Also, they're cheaper. And because my truck is very heavy because of the lift axle, I wanted to keep it light. And actually, if you pay attention, you will see lots of heavy haulers use smaller sleepers, because a lot of them only go, and it's been my experience too, that usually I don't go far, you know, it's within like 500 miles. But some people say, oh, you know, I want to be comfortable. But yeah, if your truck already weighs like, you know, 40 tons, you want to keep it, you know, on the level. And the last reason, so number 9 was flat roofs are cool, but number 10, just to add to this advantages, in my opinion, of smaller sleepers with flat roofs, is that they're much easier to clean. You know, like especially us men, you know, we tend to be messy. I know I am, and I have like this much space behind the seats. You know, I take my little broom, you know, boom, 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 with a little handle like this. You know, 10 minutes, everything is clean. You know, on my International, I always had trouble because there was much more room behind the seats. So it's number 10 is easier to clean. So just to go over these reasons. So number 1, Landstar rebate was pretty good. Number 2, Macks are different. Number 3, I keep seeing Macks pull super heavy dual tankers out west with the same small engine. Number 4, salesman contributed some information from his sales statistics. Number 5, I like the Mack shop in my town. Number 6, the shop location and the dealer location was great. Number 7, Western Star was overpriced and the labor rates were pretty much the same, but the truck itself was too expensive. Number 8, Amanda Seifert is from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and that's where I bought a Mack. Number 9, flat roofs are cool. And number 10, small sleepers are easy to clean when you are a messy guy. Thanks for watching. I'm Sergei DRATCHEV in Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. Talk to you later.